What do you like to do, Angeline? Well, funny you should ask, because it's actually quite fascinating. What I really love to do is spend days and days staring at rocks and watching the sun pass over those rocks. How long does that take you, Angeline? Well, it takes me all day. So you just sit there and stare at the rocks. Yeah, pretty much I just sit there and stare at the rocks and try not to get too sunburned and walk around and stare at the rocks. Well, do you do other things like read or something while you do that? Well, typically no, because I'm worried I'm going to miss something, so I just stare at the rock and watch the sun pass over the rock. And then maybe I'll eat something. And maybe I'll find some place to relieve myself, and then I just stare at rocks. Wow, you're really fascinating, Angeline. Does it pay off? I mean, do you see anything interesting? Sometimes.
I'm at the Kern River in the Sierra Nevada foothill mountains, California, and I came out here to look at a petroglyph that is inside a water pocket. You see how the water carves out the stone? Well, it's been doing that for millions of years here. All of this used to be under a great big lake, and over time the water has become lower and swirls around these rocks and makes these beautiful water pockets. And so there's some gorgeous petroglyphs that I suspected might do something interesting with the light at the autumn equinox. So let's see what it does. The sun is actually at a really nice angle right now, so you can see all the peck marks that are part of this huge boulder-sized petroglyph. But inside the hole, I mean, the main feature of the whole panel is peck marks. There's different levels of them too. You've got a line of them here, and then there's a line of them just above. Yeah, you can see it better over there. There's a line of them here, and then a line of them here, and both of those extend round and intersect with this, and they continue round. Well, sorry, it's not great with this camera. There's a few around near the base of this. See, right there, a lot of peck marks all around to the other side as well. And then as you come out of the hole, they're on the outside, 2 rows on the outside, here and here, and those extend all the way around the rock until this crack right there. And above the hole here are some. These are all pecked, all of the holes. Everything in this whole entire rock is pecked, which means bang, bang, bang. And then this one above here is scratched. And so I think that's probably somebody modern did. It looks like a Christian cross, and it's scratched in totally different style, way newer. You can tell by the fact that it's light colored compared to how weathered the rest of them are. And yeah, and how eroded this whole row is. I mean, look, they're so smooth. They've eroded smooth over hundreds of years. But there's some, I actually think there's some even older things going on here, possibly some crosshatch marks. I don't know if you can see them. They're like this. And then there's a couple across right there. Here. Oh, I see. Okay, see? Big cupule, big cupule, big cupule. big cupule, 4. It's here too. Bottom, cupule, middle, cupule. This is the circle. Up, cupule, cupule, and then right through the middle is a line this way. Yeah, and then there's a couple of lines near it. You know what? I don't think that's a scratch line. These are scratched in, crossing right through there. Maybe I should run over to the other rock around the corner and take another look at some of the nearby petroglyphs. There's a great big panel on the way over to this area, and then there's further down the riverbed, there's a rock with several more. I'll see if I can hop over there. So here's the rushing river. If I take even one step further away from this big rock I'm next to, I'll just be right down in there. So that's dangerous. So I'm gonna have to show you this really close up. But again, you can see the crosshatch marks in the concave depression of the rock. Circle lines. And these are really old because they're so eroded. And then right next to it, I don't know if you can see this. There's some designs pecked out along the crack. Beautiful symmetry of how the shadow from this is cast into there, which is exactly the same shape as that. And also I'm noticing that the shadow casts right over a petroglyph in the middle there, crosswise. There's like a petroglyph that looks like that, and this one goes at an angle. And then I'm noticing over here too how the sun casts a shadow across where the dots are placed. I'm going to keep watching that and see if the sun continues to, you know, be like geometrically aligned with those dots. All of that while I'm time-lapsing and watching what the sun is doing on that petroglyph inside the hole. I'm a little bit late filming the one dot being crossed because I was off exploring, but the sun's crossing this fourth dot now, if you can see that. It's approaching the second cross of the petroglyph here, right there. The water pockets are all over the place here. This one, I happened to like step in it, and I saw that underneath, when I kicked up like some red, so I started looking around in the other water pockets, but none of them have this kind of red dust in them. See, it's like underneath. When you disturb the top layer, there's this red dust it's not part of the rock, it's like laying in there. And so I wondered if maybe, you know, that was just, it was like erosion in this one pocket, but I can't find any other pockets that have the red dust. And like this one, for example, has red on the rock, but you can't make it be dust. You see what I mean? It's like, it's too, no matter how much I bang on it, it just kind of, it gets white, but it doesn't turn into red dust. And I kind of wonder now if maybe sort of semi-recently, somebody was, doing some kind of ceremonial something here, ground up some red dust and painted it in here. Because I started looking at this more closely. In this light you can't really see it as well, but I'll show you how it looks in D-stretch. It seems to have been painted over, and these also seem to have paint in them. Very light. It's clearly been washed away, but there's some residue. You can kind of see it there. You can kind of see it right here and right there. Inside this pocket, the hole you saw was from the top there, and then this is the side. But there's the round one that you saw, the main petroglyph, and then there's all of these dots surrounding the interior of the hole. I counted 40 dots, but then look at this too. Outside, they continue all around, all around this boulder. I thought that the shaft of light that's coming in, you see, the important thing would be for it to somehow bisect this image, which it actually kind of does right around midday. I'm practically exactly at midday, actually. But what I noticed is it's also following the dots. It uncovers the dots as the day goes by. The shaft of light drops down in about to there and pours over, and then it slowly, as this shadow starts to cast in the ray of light, the light starts to just slowly go over the dots. It's pretty interesting how this light, it's almost like a sundial or something, how it comes in this hole. There's that big petroglyph over there too. It starts about there, comes down, has a bottom, but it doesn't have the circle. That one's the same, but it has the circles. Oh, this is so interesting. Now, also, I have to tell you that I came in the morning and I took some time lapse, and I thought, oh, this isn't doing what I thought it was going to do, and my batteries were running out. I took a break and I went away and I saw some other things, and I was like, but something was really bothering me about it, and I thought, oh, I have to go back. So I came back and finished making time lapse of this this light progression around the hole here over the petroglyph, and I'm so glad I did, because I think I understand it better. I think I completed it, but what you'll see in the time lapse is a jump, because there's a break in my non-excellent filmmaking and lack of patience, because I walked away for a little while. Okay, so I hope that you're patient with that, and I hope you enjoy this. This little hole is an all-day project.
Now look what the light's doing. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun's been passing up through the top all day long. Now it's retreating from the top, but it's starting at the bottom. Holy moly! It's about 4 p.m. and the light has just brushed the bottom of this petroglyph. Here, this image, which is cupule line crossed by a line up to another cupule. I should probably point out too that a lot of the year this is under snow all winter. See this line, what made me think of saying this is that, see all this, I mean, this is new algae or whatever it is, some kind of, plant. All this is a new layer of yuck. And it's been at least hundreds of years since this rock would have been underwater, hundreds if not thousands, I would guess. Just because I know from the last like 20 years or so, the Kern River has been pretty low. It's actually nice and high right now, but so the snow level comes up and then goes down, and then it stays there a little while, and some algae grows and it goes up again, and then it goes down and then up and down. So that's what this green line is. But notice how throughout all of that, the top part of this rock stays in the sun, and that's why it's so black up there. A lot of the year down here, the white bands, they're protected. Just a little side note, it sort of adds to the complexity of the scene. I've been watching this rock, and I've been watching the light play over it all day, the equivalent of an entire day. And I can't get away from the idea that it is a very complicated calendar that can be used several times of the year. I think that the light plays over this rock and these dots that are both outside and in at really specific times at various times of the year. I mean, we're seeing it now on the fall equinox, but I think we could come back here at other significant times of the year and see something equally interesting. I think this, I just, I mean, who am I, right? I can say whatever I want. I think after watching this for a whole day, it's a calendar. I think it's a complicated, multi-season calendar here on the Kern River. That's the story I'm sticking to. I've actually heard this image in this rock described as an atlatl. An atlatl is a spear thrower, and it's a long shaft with a big heavy weight at the center. The oldest ones have really heavy weight right at the center of the pole, and what you do is you attach a spear into the hook at the end, and then you fling this atlatl, and it projects the spear hard for hunting, right? Then this heavy weight on the atlatl makes it be balanced, and it gives it momentum when you're throwing, when you're projecting the spear. So I've heard this described as the image of an atlatl because it appears to have kind of a hook at the top, a long thing, and then this. And these kind of images appear generally in the region of Southern California as near petroglyphs of animals, large game animals like bighorn sheep a lot of times. So these are considered to be part of hunting magic or the sheep cult or something like this. And that absolutely could be. But since I am not writing an archaeological dissertation, I'm just some schmo on YouTube, I'm going to tell you my personal thoughts when I see this, and that might
give a different perspective, because the guess about the Atlatl is as much of a guess as anything. It's deduction based on reason. But I have at least in this case, I'm not sure this one is an Atlatl, and I'll tell you why. We're in the middle of a river, basically. You saw all the rocks around. I mean, look at this. We're in a riverbed. And I can eliminate that this is some kind of a prayer for water. The Kern River is a perennial river that has run for millions and millions of years into the, am I getting my epochs right? Miocene era? I mean, way back. And the lake that this river runs through Lake Isabella right now, but Lake Isabella, what used to be called something else, I'll put it on the bottom of the screen because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but that lake used to be enormous. It used to fill up a huge geography around here, and it's grown and shrunk and swollen many times throughout millions and millions of years. But water's never been a problem here, so we're not praying for water here. We have a river. The Tubatulabal who lived here, they never even migrated. They lived here for thousands of years. They were so stable in this environment that they actually developed their own unique branch of the Uto-Aztecan language. They had their whole own language of the Uto-Aztecan strain, because they were here and they stayed and they did not migrate, and they didn't need to. They may have gone into the mountains or gone down to the rivers, traveled around and traded some, but they stayed here at the Kern River because there's game and there's fish and there's water and there's plants and there's trees and there's pine nuts. I mean, everything. You don't need to go anywhere. You can be right here. So they were. So we know that they're not stressed about food. So it doesn't make sense to me to have hunting magic or water magic as an explanation for this petroglyph. What does make sense to me is something more to do with fertility. Much like the Yoni petroglyphs you see further south in the Anza Borrego and near the Mexico-California border, it's this circle with a line through the middle. It's universal. You can find this worldwide. Every single culture has some image of the Yoni as an image of fertility. And I think this speaks more to that theme than it does an Atlatl, for a number of reasons. One, because of what this is. It's a earth, it's a big Mother Earth opening that the light, masculine fire, shines into, pierces, penetrates. The sun is masculine, the earth is feminine. The feminine in this case is receiving the masculine. The masculine is penetrating right into the hole. Not only that, the petroglyph is carved in such a way that it invites the shaft of light to cross over the circle, the yoni that's carved in here. It just seems really simple and logical, and it seems like a very reasonable explanation for this, more so than why would you, unless the Atlatl had something to do with this spear piercing and the weight, the big exaggerated weight that is carved, on this spear. It has something to do with the mother. And because the Atlatl is the way it is and it gets the food, the Atlatl itself could represent something like the yoni, because if you're using one, you're using the weight, which is a rock, which is mother, and you're using the spear, which is the fire, together to get food. And it's like a prayer for fertility of animals, and to make sure that we like using the Atlatl itself is the prayer. It's a sacred act to hunt. This isn't, I'm not making that part up. I mean, I know from speaking to elders and teachers of various tribes that hunting is not something that ever has been taken for granted, and it's not something that is treated lightly. It's treated definitely treated with reverence, but also often with sorrow, that our weakness as human creates such a need that we have to take the life of another living thing in order to survive. So we would express gratitude for the animal for sacrificing its life for our weak weakness and need, and with so much gratitude, and it's done with great ceremony and preparation, and again, gratitude. So the implement to use to hunt the animals seems like that would also be sacred. So if in fact the Atlatl is a symbol of fertility and sacred marriage of sun and earth as a means to have more food that we can hunt and use that sacred combination to procure the food, that would make sense here in this context, that this could be an Atlatl, because then the two ideas are together, the yoni, the circle with the line, and the Atlatl, the circle with the line, can kind of mean the same thing in the sense of this hole with the line, Am I making sense? I hope I am.
Now, please, if you'll allow me to indulge you for a couple of more minutes, I want to bend your brain in a slightly different direction. There's another concept, this idea of fertility and abundance. A lot of times relates to puberty ceremonies for both males and females. And because there tend to be so many similarities between North American, Native American customs and Aboriginal Australian customs, I'm just going to draw one comparison in this case, and that's the Bora rings of Australia. They're rings that are oriented to the Milky Way in August and September, in which puberty ceremonies are held for boys, in which boys are meant to recite songs and knowledge that they've been learning through their apprenticeship, if that's the right word. And then they reveal their knowledge, and they're allowed to pass through this coming of age ceremony using the Bora rings, where they dance and do the ceremonies. And these petroglyphs associated with this rock and this, what I think is some kind of calendar, or maybe isn't a calendar, but maybe is representative of a whole ceremony itself, appears to look like the Bora rings. Down in the Anza Borrego Desert, there's a geoglyph called a power geoglyph that also seems to resemble a Bora ring or Bora rings. These Bora rings are orientated to the south. The two rings are sometimes joined with a line and are oriented to the south along the Milky Way, like I said. And the opening of this rock in this video is open to the south. Also, these geoglyphs that I'm talking about further down in the desert is also oriented to the south. So it's just an interesting thing to consider, the possibility that when we see these images, that this particular petroglyph or others like them, it could be representing a kind of a ceremony, and that this is a spot where something like that would happen.
I don't know, maybe I'll come back at the summer solstice, in about 9 months. All right, well, I hope you like this. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this, and you can see more like this at theancientsouthwest.com, more blog posts, more photos, more videos. Also, if you want to join the discussion and share your images and your explorations, please do that at the Facebook group, Ancient Southwest. And I support this channel with the sale of the handmade bead art that I make in the style of the Huichol of Mexico, and all of that is available in my Etsy shop, which you can link to through theancientsouthwest.com. It helps me get here with the gas money, pay my car and my Jeep insurance, all these things, and makes it easier for me to do this more and bring this content to you. So if you enjoy it, I would appreciate the support, and I would appreciate you sharing these videos with your friends you think might be interested, and giving it a like and a subscribe and all that good stuff. It means a lot to me. Your comments too also really mean a lot to me. It means a lot to me to know that somebody watched it and got something out of it. I do this for the love, and it just brings me a lot of joy to think that maybe somebody else is getting something out of it too. So thank you so much. May the fire inside you continue to burn brightly.